أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Good afternoon to you all. Actually, you can sense my voice cracking, and this is not my normal self, but actually it's because of the issues that have been discussed in this gathering, which started since yesterday. Actually, they are heart-touching, they are real. These are issues that will actually make someone not to sleep. But alhamdulillah, at the same time, you will hear some good news, good stories, and experiences, that are unique and that are also going to give you some kind of comfort and hope that yes, even though we are not there, but inshallah we'll get there. And before we go into the discussion, actually it's very, very important to state something here, even though I seek for permission from Malam Mudathir. We are all excited here. We feel comfortable. We see the place is very nice. But to some, they didn't know why it started. And it's a secret that I want to narrate to you. Somewhere around 2022, that was like 2 years ago, we attended a seminar, a symposium on Islamic finance, actually to target financing gaps for agricultural value chain, leveraging on Islamic finance products. But to our surprise, 99% of the organizers are not us. Did you hear me? 99.99% of the organizers are not us. Meaning, they don't belong to Islamic finance space because we don't know them. We know all the players, we know all the actors. And also, another surprising thing is those that attended, those that presented papers, those that sat on the panel discussion table, 99.99 are us. Then I and Mr. Mudassir and others felt that we are robbed. Actually, those people were not Muslims. And they organized a symposium on Islamic finance. And we keep asking ourselves, how did they even recognize us? How did they even get our contact? Then Mr. Mudassir took a stand, strong one. And alhamdulillah, see it is a reality today that next time, whenever we are going for an Islamic finance event, that we should lead, we should organize, we should call them. They should come and attend, and not them inviting us for things that we do actually, and things that are actually aligned to our faith, aligned to our values. And also, we attended several seminars whereby you see it's of international level standard, just as Malama Umuhani said at the other time. Then this is also a challenge because most of us from the north especially will not have the chance to attend these seminars because they are happening in either Abuja, Lagos, or Port Harcourt. So what's the next step to do is to bring it down to our level, bring it down to our locality, and alhamdulillah, Malam Mudassir, thank you. It's happening here right now in Kano, and it's Team Islamic Finance, where Arewa Islamic Finance Summit. Alhamdulillah, this is a great, achievement, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you. And also is a learning point and also a call to those that have not participated, thinking that is an Arewa, and usually anything called Arewa is not going to be that, unique. You won't have that top-notch, arrangement. But even if you are coming from Washington, especially yesterday and today morning, you will feel the spirit that this is not the normal Arewa event that you are used to. So Alhamdulillah, may Allah reward you. Thank you. And I think this is very important. That is why I'm stating it before we delve into our discussion. Because we are all happy and excited, but we don't know. Okay, okay. We are all enjoying, but we don't know the spirit behind. And I'm stating this because it should be a practical, approach to the way we do things. Now, this is a reality. It was just a talk between me, him, and some few people 2 years back. So also you can take this to be an eye-opener. Anything that you dream of, you can do it. Don't say, no, it's Arewa. No, it will happen. You can do it, and you can learn lesson from what has happened in this gathering. Please, we want to call on the attention of this person. He's blocking the way to some people that want to go out. GWL 213AJ. But I don't know. They didn't put the class of the car. I don't know whether it's a Toyota or Mercedes. GWL 21380. Please, if you hear this number, please go and park well. Thank you. So, Alhamdulillah, the academicians have spoken, the elder statesmen have spoken, the entrepreneurs also have spoken. And now is the time for the Islamic financial institutions to speak. And Alhamdulillah, what we are going to discuss is going to be part of the solutions to most of the problems that have been raised. Even the panel before us, they spoke about SMEs and startups not getting financing, or maybe it's very difficult. There are also awareness gaps, and there are also, bottlenecks, here and there. The risk is very high, Even the financial institutions themselves, they perceive those SMEs and startups to be too risky for them. But after hearing the discussion from the first panel of discussion, you hear that someone went down Adamawa and see what he has created. So as entrepreneurs, you should always see risks as an opportunity for making profit. And there's no any business that doesn't deal with risk. And in fact, when you want to grow a business and make it sustainable, the best approach is to have the best risk mitigants and the best risk, profiling and assessment in place. Because if you don't do that, you will be out of business without you even noticing. Okay. So Alhamdulillah, we have a representation of most of the Islamic financial institutions here. We have the banks, and we have the capital market operators. And inshallah, we are going to speak on how we will develop our SMEs and startups, especially in making them viable for accessing financing and also developing their own, businesses. With me is the representation of 117 Capital, and I think you are going to present a paper, right? Before we start, or you are no more presenting the paper? Yes, yeah, but it's good you do, please. So let's hear from him first, then before you go to the discussion. Okay, fine. So because of time constraint, I think we should just go directly into the issues, discuss them, and see the way forward. So the theme is Islamic finance for capital mobilization, responsible investment, and business development. And we know that there is no any business, whether it is a startup or SME, that will actually grow without having this thing in place, having the required capital for operation, expansion, and diversification. And I think I would like to start with the Islamic banks. Please, we want to hear from you, actually. What are the practical steps that SMEs and startups can take to access financing through Islamic finance tools such as Mudaraba, Ijara, Musharaka, and Sukuk, and whether this instrument can be used to be tailored to meet the unique needs of small businesses in northern Nigeria. Alan Ibrahim Alkali, please, I would like to start with you if you get the question. So what is your bank doing, and what do they have in place for this? Thank you.
Okay. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wa imamil mursalin. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa hlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. Thank you for having me in this panel. Although I'm not the right person, honestly, to speak about business ideas or plans or how to structure modules that can be operative for business entrepreneurs. But from the little interaction I'm having with the business units, I'll be able maybe to pick one or two things to address this concern. The question is the practical steps for SMEs in accessing Islamic financial services through our designated Islamic finance product. Unlike the ones you mentioned earlier, Murabaha, Ijara, I'm afraid Sukuk for SME, I'm afraid that is practical. But for Murabaha, Ijara, and equity-based contracts like Musharaka and Mudaraba, I believe we have a lot of gaps. A lot have been said about businesses, small and medium enterprise businesses relating with commercial banks in generality, including the Islamic banks. And I believe the previous speakers have said a lot about that. Hajiana Ima was here. She highlighted a lot of those challenges. And I also heard the doctor or professor talking about, yes, commercial banks cannot help matters in that perspective. It's rather macroeconomics, banks or small or enterprise like cooperatives that can serve towards that goals. I agree partially with that submission, but then for me as an Islamic finance practitioner and Sharia compliance and audit executive, I would say that it will not exonerate the Islamic banks also to participate for financing businesses, although it is not the reality, I must admit. But then looking at the message that Islamic banks carry to the society and the theory of Islamic banking and finance and the nature of asset-based services they operate, honestly does not exonerate them in participating in that. They should find a way, I think we are working in finding a way to bridge these gaps, because there are challenges actually on ground for small businesses because they lack what I can call the proper business structure to qualify to access financing from Islamic banks, because Islamic banks does not operate in isolation. They are also part of the economic cycle and the banking system generally. And we must know always that those banks are regulated and they have guidelines through the Central Bank of Nigeria, the NDIC, and etc. So it is difficult for them to bridge that gap between them and those small businesses, because one of the major hindrance, one of the challenges for these small businesses is they don't have the requirement to qualify to access Islamic banking.
Thank you, Mala Ibrahim Kali. Inshallah, this is also part of the questions we're going to ask.
Okay.
Thank you for addressing you've made mention of bridging the gap. Dr. Saheed, thank you for coming. And the next question actually is tilting towards you, because he has started it, bridging the gap. And especially, it is perceived that even in the conventional setting, financing startups and SMEs is very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. Why? Because of their nature. It's a very risky area, and then most of them, they don't have proper books. You know, they are lagging behind in the corporate world. Most of the small, the SME businesses, you will see that they don't have a real structure. But we are not here actually to discuss these problems, but actually to find solution to it. In addition to that, Dr. Saheed, you know, the Islamic finance itself, it's having some misperceptions among the people. Maybe they don't even understand the product. You know, they don't know the difference between Murabaha, Musharaka. You know, this knowledge gap. How is your bank, you know, what is your bank having in place to see that these small medium enterprises and startups have the requisite knowledge to even understand the Islamic finance product and then also come to you for financing?
No, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Abi nasta'in wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Briefly, because of the time, first of all, the appreciation of the enormity or the bigness of SME will bring it into our consciousness how important they should be and the financing should be to the society. Depending on whichever statistic you are using, the SMEs, they take almost 96% of all the businesses in Nigeria. Because, and they even take up to 84% of our workforce. That is the employment side of it. So, because when you look at what the government is using to define what an SME is, they will use the assets as well as the number of employees. So basically, largely, they will say if your business is less than 50 million and you are employing less than 100, then you are a small scale enterprise. If your business size or your asset is less than 200, sometimes 300 million, and you are employing less than 200 million and you are employing less than 300 people, then you are a medium size. Then how many Nigerians do you even think has up to 50 million that is using to do businesses? You realize that the large majority of Nigerians, they are even smaller than small scale enterprises. And that's why I think the professor was talking about nano and the rest. So in essence, if there is no financing strategy for this group of people, then what are we talking about? There is no provision for the sector that employs the far majority of the people. You understand? And as has been said by the moderator, true, the people below the ladder in economy largely are classified as unbankables. And that is the reason why one of our sisters that was participating in the last session was reiterating the fact that banks generally are not meant for such a financing. So if they are unbankables, then what is the solution? They are unbankables because they don't have the collateral to support whatever they want to do. Some of them, they don't even have the book. So if you ask them, what have you been doing for the last 1 year, not even 3 years, they don't have any record. And when our mamas, those selling kose and the rest, when they just look at money, they believe they have made a lot of money today. They have forgotten that inside it we have what? Capital and profit. So in essence, I think the major solution to such a thing, basically, and what we are doing in our own bank, is one, to ensure we can increase financial literacy. And how do we do that? Number one, you even start from your own house. Islamic finance we are talking about the large majority of people working in all Islamic banks, large majority, if I will be I don't want to be conservative, but I can tell you that we will all agree here that more than 80% of those working in the present Islamic bank in Nigeria, they are from the non-interest bank. I mean, they are from the interest-based conventional banks. Is that not? So a lot of them don't even know what is Islamic bank. They just bring that notion down. So number one, you have to train and retrain your people. That is number one. Then number two, how do you train the general public? At TAJBank, and it will interest you that TAJBank, as we all know, is a very young bank. By Monday, this coming Monday, that is December 2nd, TAJBank will just be 5 years. You understand? So, but we have started since last year a public engagement of going into the press, especially during Ramadan. We engage scholars. I think some of them are here. We engage scholars to tell people what exactly is the essence of Islamic finance. And those programs are being watched largely here, especially in the north. And they are done in local languages. So these are one of the ways we feel we can contribute not only to profit making in our own bank, but as well to educate the public. Because people have misconception, as you have said. When they hear Islamic bank, some believe it is even a place where they are doing charity. You can even walk in and say, I don't have money, please can you give me money? You understand? And there is another misconception that now the present interest rate is 35%. Islamic bank is necessary now. Why? Because they think Islamic bank will come and make it 20%. No, you don't run a bank like that. We are running a system that is what? That is dual in nature. We have conventional and we have what? Islamic. And the central bank that regulates us is the same. Now it has increased the interest rate MPR into what? 27.5. You understand? That means that is the cost of money in the society, in the system. So it will affect everybody. For that reason, at TAJBank, what we'll do is that we need to teach our people, both the general populace as well as the bank staff, the whole essence, the philosophy behind Islamic finance. And if they do that, I think the society will be better for it. Thank you very much.
Dr. Saheed, for this wonderful clarification. And as we all know, that Sukuk, the Islamic bond, which is called Sukuk, and other capital market instruments are gaining traction, especially with the issuance of federal government Sukuk, bonds for the past 2 decades. Now people get to understand that yes, the capital market has an instrument called Sukuk. But I would like to ask our capital market operators here, what do you have, that is tailored towards improving, SMEs? And I would like to start with 117 Capital, please.
Thank you so much. So it's the question again, please.
Yeah. So Sukuk, Islamic bonds, they are getting traction. Everybody is talking about Sukuk. Mm-hmm. And usually those that benefit from that are big corporates, So now the specific question is, what do you have as a Sukuk instrument to long financing for SMEs? Or is it possible actually for SMEs to tap into this Sukuk? Or do you have any model or instrument that is structured based on either Sukuk or any other capital market instrument that will actually support the sustainability of small and medium enterprises and also startups? And especially if you have Sukuk, I think I'm interested because this is the popular product.
Okay, thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I think the way I would like to approach the response is firstly by speaking to the different types of finance. So a lot of the speakers that have come here today have spoken about having an understanding, business owners having an understanding of the type of finance that they need for their business. And you have what we call debt and you have equity. Debt essentially means you borrowing money. Equity means you taking a share of somebody's business. And when you look at the Islamic finance ecosystem as a whole, it involves a lot of participants. So you have the banks, you have the issuing houses, you have the banks, you have the money market, you have the capital market. The money market means you have the banks where you go, the money depositors, everybody goes, puts their money for safekeeping, whether it's a microfinance bank or it's a commercial bank or an Islamic bank. Then you have what we refer to as the capital market, which you now have fund and asset managers, issuing houses, stockbrokers, and all of those other entities, which essentially aid companies to raise capital for their businesses. So even business owners need to know where exactly they should go for the right type of money that would aid their business. So a small business owner that goes to TAJBank or TAJBank and does not have the requisite documentation, you find it difficult. Maybe that business owner doesn't really need to borrow money. What that business owner needs is somebody to invest in their company because you need patient capital. Now, as a capital market operator, what we do is that we help organizations and individuals to manage their funds. And at the same time, we equally advise companies on how to raise capital from the open market. So the federal government, in its wisdom, that tried to leverage on Sukuks, essentially what it did was to go to the general public, you and I, to borrow it money and invest in its own projects where it would guarantee the repayment of our own money from taxpayers' funds. And the same concept is applicable to businesses. So we can set up a corporate Sukuk for your business. You come, we look at your business, expansion plan or specific project, we ring fence it, and then we create a Sukuk. We look for potential investors who will participate in it, and we have a repayment plan on how those investors in your corporate Sukuk would make these repayments. And this is already happening. We're already doing it for companies. We participated in supporting TAJBank in its own Mudaraba Sukuk.
MashaAllah.
Yes. And so it's not just for the federal government. Private sector companies, no matter how large, no matter how small, can equally do it too. And that's the beauty of Islamic finance. But so what I would like to say is that it's important for business owners to be aware of the different financing options and windows available to them. It's not just the banks. As our brother already mentioned, MPR is 27.5. That means lending rates will go higher. And anybody who is taking money to a bank or any investor who is bringing money to us to manage on their behalf has an expectation. None of you here will bring money to us and say, we should return it back to you as you gave it to us. You expect a benefit. And we will in turn look at the businesses that have opportunity and we say we will support you in your business expansion. So in doing that, we expect that from your profits generated, we will share, and then we will give the investors that own the capital a portion of that profit so that they equally benefit from it. So Islamic finance is very pragmatic. We have to be very objective. It is not free money. And we owe a duty to ourselves and everybody. So one of the speakers, I would like to mention this because we spoke about the challenge that we face with the right competence and capacity. So when we set up our businesses, we think anything goes. We have a name of a company and anybody can run it. That's not true. You have to have competent people. And if we go back to even the story of Anabi Musa, when he helped the young lady to fetch water from the river, and she went back to her dad to say, you know what, hire him. What did she say to him? Hire him because you need somebody who is strong and trustworthy. In today's business environment, what does strong and trustworthy mean? Intellectual.
Yes.
Somebody who has the intellectual capacity, the competence to manage your business or the component of your business. And then trustworthiness, again, it's literal. So I think let us all ensure that we understand this as business owners. As 117 Capital, we work with small and medium enterprises, but particularly we focus on businesses that have a track record. So you've been in business for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. It means you're not a startup. If you're a startup, then you go for a venture capital firm who is willing to take the added risk. So there's a difference. Then if you now are established, you've moved beyond the 2, 3, 4, 5 years, then you can approach a bank who now look at your business and say, yes, we're willing to finance you. Corporate banks want to give short-term finance, 12 months. Capital market operators, we can help you raise capital for a longer period of time. So you need to have an understanding as a business owner. So I think from 117 Capital's perspective, we are able to support businesses in these areas. And I think particularly collaboratively with other financial institutions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jazakallah khair. Dr. Akim, and I want to be fair to you. I don't want to change the question. So please, what are you doing different, or are you doing the same thing?
Thank you very much, and I would like to appreciate the organizers of this event. I think it's quite timely. For us at Marble Capital, we support organizations that are looking to scale up, that are looking to raise funding. I mean, especially in the ethical space, in the green space. We've had a lot of talk about organizations coming here today and suggesting that perhaps Kano needs a lot of support in solar financing or energy, alternative energy sources. We support, and we've supported a couple of companies that have been desirous of actually using solar energy, to actually power a lot of medium-sized organizations. We raised the first green Sukuk, for example, in Nigeria. So we've done that. Apart from that, we also assist organizations. I mean, just like Bahidi said earlier, TAJBank, when they needed Mudaraba finance, we worked with them and worked with a lot of other financial institutions to raise the 15 billion, the 10 billion Mudaraba finance they needed at the time as well. We also assist organizations that have maybe excess funds that you like to invest, in ethical and Sharia compliant instruments, because we have to understand that the financial landscape is made up of two sides, those that have in excess and those that actually are in need. Not everybody is needing or requiring funding. Some people have a lot of money and they don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to invest it. And they do not want to put their money with banks where they're going to get interest or riba returns. So we exist to ensure that such kind of organizations or individuals, they're able to invest either in the mutual funds that we've launched, the halal mutual funds, commodity funds, fixed income funds, and for those that need funding in the halal way as well, we structure either short-term or long-term funding for them as well. We also assist organizations that need commercial paper issuances. We're able to do the first non-interest commercial paper to be quoted on the FMDQ, and a lot of investors were able to take advantage of that for 180 days investment, 270-day investments as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And because of time, actually we're going to skip a lot of questions because the questions are many, and maybe we are going to leave it to our audience. But before we do that, I think it's going to be fair for this session to actually ask the Islamic banks. For example, if we have entrepreneurs here, SMEs here, and they want to access financing from your banks, do you have specific criteria, and what are the screening tools you have so that at least they hear. If they have qualified, maybe from this gathering, maybe they could start knocking at your doors. I will start with Malam Ibrahim Alkali.
Okay, what I will advise entrepreneurs and small businesses virtually is to learn from other, practices, because as it stands now, when you as a small business owner or a startup, you approach a financial institution that is well structured and guided by some rules and regulations, it is difficult to deal with it because you don't have the prerequisite requirement for financing. So there are a lot of experiences that we have from other jurisdictions, like for instance, in other developed Islamic financial markets like Malaysia and Indonesia. They do a lot of Islamic banks there. They do a lot of engagement with small businesses, but it has to be structured in a way that it will be easy to meet the requirement for the financing. For example, in Indonesia, all those farmers of palm trees that they use to produce the palm oil, they come together as farmers and institutionalize their process in terms of how they package their request, so to make it in group, like that they can securitize themselves and make a presentation or request to the bank that will fulfill some a large portion of the requirement. So at that stage, the banks can deal. But when you come individual without any, requirements, it's difficult. So I advise those entrepreneurs to, especially in the north, in this side of the country. I think in the south, they have some kind of this structural, for example, in Lotus Bank, we dealt with some organizations and some business ideas that had that kind of cooperative and structured, a way of doing their businesses. They can come together, structure a way that they can securitize themselves with themselves. And I think during the presentation of the ladies panel, one of the presenters mentioned something like that. So when they structure something and come up with a proposal that incorporates most of this requirement, and they can do it by coming together and putting hand together and look at how to do that to meet the business requirement in the banks. And they can also engage with some professionals to seek for advisory services on how to structure a financing request with banks. So they can also guide them, and they can do it in such a way that in marketplace, traders and small businesses come together, appoint an advisory service agent that can package this thing for them so that we bridge this gap. We can also look at how those businesses can package a request that will give them a direct equity financing. Sudan, before the crisis, they have a wonderful module that they used to do for their agricultural, they have a salam product. And you can just imagine that how Sudan agriculturally thrived and became one of the most successful modules in Africa, although they were constrained for over decades, that they have financial constraint because of the sanctions and everything. But they've been able to do it because a lot of Islamic banks in Sudan used to finance those farmers. So how are they doing it? And most of those farmers, they don't have capital. They are small in nature and SMEs in nature. But then they've been able to package this thing by using this structural module of doing it. And when they approach the banks, so the banks will find it easy to penetrate and give them the suitable. It's amazing that Sudan uses Mudaraba. They finance Mudaraba, not investment, financing. You see, so and this serves actually one of the high ethical background of Islamic finance. When you participate in equity financing, and this is what we want, because it's bring about financial inclusion and going into the real economy instead of the debt base that always Islamic banks or banks generally are keen to participate into. So I think if they can use those methodologies and come up together to securitize themselves and package something that would be acceptable to the the risk appetite of the banks, then we can leverage on that and partner to give them a lot of financing.
Thank you very much for this wonderful answer. Dr. Saheed, I think it's the same question to you. In TAJBank, are you doing the same thing or is different? Maybe your criteria for screening SMEs and how they access funding.
All right, because of the time, I will just mention two things that we can do or we are doing differently. Number one is that based on the definition of the Nigerian in Nigeria, as I've earlier mentioned, we have so many customers we finance that their capital is not even up to even 10 million, 5 million. You understand? So we still have customers that are coming around. We still finance them with that small, some little amount of money. So, and it will be because they have been so disciplined. They will be a bit disciplined, and they should go through our risk management the policy. So a lot of them, number one, are doing it. Number two is that in addition to what my brother has just said now, we have amongst us people. Let me give you one instance. Someone came to our bank sometimes. He felt that in their alumni, in their former secondary school, when they do the meeting, they realize that he is alhamdulillah, is well to do, but it's just like any of us. You will still see so many of your mates when you were in secondary school very poor, struggling to live. Is that not? So he was now looking at how could he assist them. But if he has, like, let's say he has 50 million, he just said, we have 50 million, yeah, you take this, the money will not come back again. So he can as well come to the bank. You understand? Partners with the bank. We now use a form of Wakala. The bank becomes your wakil. You are the owner of the fund. You bring out the fund. He does not even want any interest on his money. His interest is that I want to empower my people. You understand? But he knows very sure that once he does that within them, the money will not come back. So we now come through the bank. The bank now does that service for him, managing his money to his people. You understand? But the people will be seeing the money coming from the bank. So the discipline will be there. You understand? And you can give them some whatever they will follow, which will ensure that the money comes back. And once the money comes back, you can even use it for another set of people. I think you are getting it now. So this is another method we can use. So many of us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed, we can go if we know we cannot do it directly. You can actually partner with TAJBank, and TAJBank will do it marvelously to your satisfaction. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Actually, it's interesting to hear all their responses. And I want to share something. For me, it's actually an opportunity for the Islamic Microfinance Bank to venture into this. SMEs and startups, they are too risky for the big banks. So please, can you start doing something so that you upscale them, so that they can pick them up from there? This is one. Then secondly, they have itemized a lot of risk factors. Who is ready among you to make a business venture by doing a great job, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to reward you, and you're going to get money, which is de-risking these businesses and these startups, make them viable for financing, and then you push them to the Islamic banks and the capital market operators. And because of time, I think we will open the floor for Q&A.